Unlike fanny packs, bowl cuts, and troll dolls, the sensation is back, only at Zaxby's. The Sensation Salad and the new Sensation Filet Sandwich features hand-breaded chicken, Asian slaw, wonton strips, and citrus vinaigrette, and both are served with an egg roll. The Sensation Salad and the new Sensation Filet Sandwich meal, for a limited time, only at Zaxby's. And skip the line when you order ahead on the Zaxby's app or on Zaxby's.com.
From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up.
WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up War Chant, presented by Zaxby's.
Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
What up, everybody? It's Wake Up War Chant presented by Zaxby's. I'm Aslan. Corey Clark here. We are in the Midtown offices, Tallahassee, Florida. And if you're not pumped up for football season, I don't know what's your problem. But this might help you out a little bit. Garnet and Gold doing an exciting giveaway, $250 in free gear. Check them out over on their Facebook page for more details. Again, Garnet and Gold. You bleed it, now own it. Shop Garnet and Gold. If you're a Knoll, they are your store. Man. $250 in free gear.
That's a lot.
How about break it up, give us something? I'd like another polo.
I'll take $40 in free gear. Yeah. I don't need all $250.
Well, you can get $75 in free Adidas gear if you sign up to warchant.com using the promo code Adidas. That promo is back. It's like the zombie promo. It went away, we thought, but no, it's back. It's back. $75 gift card to Adidas.com and 25% off a membership to warchant.com. Lots of good content going up there. As football season. Game week has begun. We spoke to Willie on Monday. I think, you and Ira did a pretty good wrap-up video-wise. It's on YouTube. It's also on War Chant. It's on the story that you wrote immediately after Willie's press conference. Kind of summing up what went down. I got some bullet point stuff here to talk about, Corey. I'm trying to be more organized so I don't ramble as much. I asked you on Sunday night when we found out that James Blackman was going to be the starting quarterback, will we hear Willie Taggart, talk about, he's a really good quarterback. His accuracy has been better. His decision-making has been better. He's, has better anticipation. We didn't get any of that. Apparently, this was neck and neck, and it feels like James Blackman won on the tiebreaker, which you said shouldn't be the determining factor in naming a starting quarterback, which is his personality and his likability.
No, I didn't say it shouldn't be the determining factor. I said if you're a Florida State fan, you'd want to hear more about what James did on the field.
But I don't think we did we?
No, we did not. But, if they are even, then yeah. If they were even, if you really thought in your heart of hearts, Aslan, that James Blackman and Hornibrook were the exact same quarterback, you were going to get the same production out of each, who would you pick?
Yeah, you got to reward James for being here.
That's what I'm saying. So I think I never said that shouldn't be a tiebreaker. Okay. You just hoped it didn't come down to a tiebreaker. You know what I mean? You kind of hoped that he had just outplayed him.
But it did, though, right?
Sounds like Willie, it, yeah. And you never know really, because you this day and age, you do want to keep these quarterbacks engaged, and you want Hornibrook to be a part of the game plan, and he might be there. Much like Jimbo said how close it was between Jameis and Coker, and I don't know that anybody really thought it was that close, but he swore that it was because he wanted Coker around. He wanted Coker in his program. He wanted Coker to stay engaged. So, according to Willie Taggart on Monday, basically they were almost dead even as far
nearly
identical as far as their stats when it came to every throw they made in the scrimmages, every throw they made in, team situations that they charted, every practice. So they were nearly identical. So, with that said, you go with the guy that's your team captain that everybody loves, which makes sense.
Do you recalibrate expectations or optimism when you factor in that?
No, because it's not like I've ever sat here and thought James Blackman was a future first-round pick. He's not Andrew Luck, R.I.P., and he's not guys like that. He's not Robert Griffin. Is he still in the league, by the way? Did Robert Griffin outlast Andrew Luck?
I think he's with the Ravens.
Who got the last laugh, my man? I want to see the second act of his career. So yeah, man, I don't think anybody thinks James Blackman's going to be a superstar or All-American candidate. So, I would have been. You go in there with your expectations were already kind of. They're not sky high for him as a quarterback because we've seen it. We know what he is. I mean, I think he'll make steady improvements, or he can, but he's not a super duper star.
But the offense they ran last year, to steal a term from friend of the program, Dino Babers, it was probably a cousin of what Kendall's trying to do here full time now. I mean, what
probably not even a distant cousin, right? Probably like a cousin you hang out with a couple times a month. Maybe lives down the street.
So James was immersed in that offense for an entire year, had 15 practice leg up on Alex because he had spring, and the determining factor was because James is a good kid that he's the starting quarterback. To me,
again,
I'm not concerned because I love the kid. I think I'm gonna stay on board with the highs and the lows that this kid does. And to your point, I don't think he's going to be a 40 touchdown, 20 pick, 15 pick guy. Maybe 28 touchdowns, maybe 32, 17 interceptions.
Wouldn't that be something? Did they score that many the whole year last year? I'm not sure they scored 32 touchdowns last year.
What was Francois' split? I should look up his split. Yeah, I mean, I know what he is, but I just think it's crazy that we're never going to – when will he get celebrated? Does he need to throw for 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter against Clemson and Death Valley to be celebrated and appreciated for beyond just being a good human – I don't want to say good human, but just being a good teammate?
Yeah, man. I mean, you got to do it on the field. He's had – what has he had? 13 starts, I think. Mm-hmm. He's 7-6 or 6-7. I can't do that quick math in my head. I think he's.
Well, they went 7-6.
Yeah, so 6-7. He's 6-7 as a starter. Now again, I'm not one of those people that puts a lot of stock.
Francois had only 15 touchdowns.
They
12
didn't.
picks.
I don't know that they scored 32 touchdowns last year. So us saying, hey, maybe Scoots only throws for 29. It's like, okay, well, that would double what they had last year. So he started 13 games. He's 6-7 in those games. I would say out of those 13 games, probably 4 or 5 were he played pretty well to well. Other than that, it was just kind of average. But again, they're true freshmen. That's a tough deal.
Coach
running
that's
that offense,
checked out on the program.
Running that offense, not great wide receivers. I mean, he didn't have Dalvin. Cam was good, but he wasn't Dalvin. He isn't Dalvin. So anyway, what I would say is, he hasn't put up enough. There's not a big enough sample size. I think in my opinion, there's a big enough sample size to know what his ceiling is. But I do think from what we've seen to that ceiling is a pretty big gap. I think he could make some big strides, and we'd be like, wow, he's a pretty good quarterback. Like, he's a good quarterback. He could be like a guy that throws for 3,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, 9, something like that. I think so. But you can't be celebrating until you do something worth celebrating. And nothing he's done on the field, save for a game last year and a couple games at the end of 2017, have been worth celebrating. So let's see it. I think.
But he has done it. I don't know why we take such a jaundiced eye, skeptical assessment of him.
Oh, because I mean, I don't think it's even skeptical. It's just he is what he is. He's not a guy that's generational.
Not at all.
But he is a guy that they love. He's a guy that I guess Willie and Kendall think gives them the best chance to win. He wasn't exactly beating out Justin Fields right here. This wasn't or Jalen Hurts even. But yeah, I think you're skeptical because we haven't seen the ceiling yet. We don't know what it is. We don't know what his top level performance looks like. And what we've seen so far is a lot of meh. But again, me and you both say all the time that those are extenuating circumstances. I don't judge the meh moving forward. That's just what he was. Again, I just think it gave us a baseline for what he could be.
Yeah,
which isn't great.
If Derwin James is, covering a tight end, or if he's, rolling over to the boundary to help out in the end of the game 2017 against Miami, James Blackman has a win over Miami and Florida under his belt. Really weird
comeback win over Miami.
Yeah, really weird mesh handoff in the Louisville game. They were driving down the field to kind of salt that game away and win it. And listen, and they lost these games, but it just for me being as negative and I don't want to say negative, but cynical and skeptical about things, I kind of choose to believe that those situations will more or less go in his favor this time around. And the last 3-4 games that we saw him play in 2017, he looked quite well. And in the NC State game, I mean, the stats were amazing, but I do think he turned the ball over early with an interception that kind of hamstrung them because it was deep in their own territory. I don't know. I think I'll live with those sort of performances. I think the good will outweigh the bad with him. It's crazy to me that, again, he had this sort of head start on Hornibrook. And Hornibrook, you talk about not Justin Fields, not Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's not even – I mean, he came from an offense that is totally, obsolete, outdated, or in the Stone Ages, if you will. They're just a ball control, run first offense. Wisconsin. He comes in here in 3 months and is up to speed. He's that close. He's nearly identical to what James Blackman has been. To me, that's a little bit of a. Ugh.
No, I can see why that. It seems like you just contradicted yourself. You don't know why people are celebrating him or they're skeptical about him, and then it sounds like you're skeptical. Well,
because he's saying that's this is how he's being marketed.
Oh, yeah.
It really came down to those, but he's just a good kid. He's a good guy. I'm going to make him the starter quarterback.
He won the team. Again, we don't know what the reality is. Some of that could be coach speak. Genuinely, Willie wants to say, like, look, man, you didn't really lose the job as much as, he's been the guy. He's been around here. You didn't outplay him enough to win the job. That's how you keep Hornibrook engaged. That's how you keep Hornibrook ready in case Blackman does struggle. Or maybe Blackman wasn't very good. Maybe neither one of them were very good. But yeah, I don't know. I think, number one, I do think that says something about Hornibrook, that he made this thing close. Also, you convinced him to come from Wisconsin. I'm sure there was a recruiting process there. You really needed him.
Oh, yes.
You still really need him. Mm-hmm. You really needed a backup, especially because you didn't know what the deal was with Travis. So you had to have a backup. So you had to do whatever it took, short of giving him a car, to get him on campus for quarterback depth purposes. So you then don't want to go out when the job is handed to the other guy and say, yeah, it was really kind of a no-brainer. James just runs it better. James just a better quarterback for us. I think that might be Willie's way of trying to keep Alex happy enough to be on the team, to stay on the team, and to learn the offense each week and learn the game plan each week, because you might go in there in the second quarter.
You can lift up James Blackman without putting down Alex Hornibrook. You can talk about James has made progress from when I first stepped on this campus. His decision-making, I think, has gotten better. His accuracy has gotten better. Alex made it a really good competition. I don't think James would be nearly the quarterback he is today if Alex wasn't here right now. So we're in a great situation right now. But James just simply, he just showed us that he's grown and he's become the quarterback that we need him to be. I mean, you can say something like that. You want to talk about coach speak, but we're still stuck on. He's a really good kid.
Yeah.
But that's what we do.
Hey, he won the team, man. He won the team. And he could have just said, like, guys, y'all been out there. Y'all see who throws the ball. Who would y'all pick? I mean, he could have said that, but you don't want to be too mean to Hornibrook.
And you don't want to. And I understand what you're saying.
Y'all got eyes.
You have egos that you have to massage and manage.
Especially in 2019.
Yeah,
right?
I totally get that. I still think there's other ways that you can communicate through these channels of the media
but
that
none
you're
of it,
quarterback
but also none
believe
of it.
in him.
I guess my point, I tried to make it earlier and I went off topic and said a bunch of words that didn't make sense. But none of it really matters. He could talk up Blackman to the moon. That's a phrase, right? Talk someone up to the moon. Right?
Why not?
People say that all the time. Pulling an Armstrong. You talk him up to the moon. But it wouldn't matter if he goes out on Saturday and lays an egg.
No, absolutely not. You're right.
So talk him up after we see what happens Saturday. If he goes out there and is in control, it's fast, he moves them up and down the field to 500 yards and 35 points and 3 touchdown passes to 15, then all of a sudden you're like, okay, this is our guy and we'll talk him up more. Maybe. But none of it matters. What he would have said on Monday afternoon, it wouldn't matter if he goes out there and lays an egg. And maybe he thinks there's a chance that happens. You hope not. You'd like it to see, for everyone, for this show, for James Blackman and his family, for Willie Taggart and his family. You'd like to see that offense score some points.
That's his birthday, by the way, today. Happy birthday, Willie.
It is.
Yeah,
do we know his age?
I
think he's a year younger than me, so I think he's 31.
Man, I was looking at the video from 17. His hair was so richly black in 2017. That's got a lot of gray up there.
It's like the president, right?
Yeah, man. He's got the whole Obama thing going.
He's looking like Louis Gossett Sr.
He will be turning 44.
Oh, okay. Same age. All right.
Peers.
Yeah. Maybe not financially.
We're going to talk to B.J. Rains from the Idaho Press, give us some insight into Boise State and their starting quarterback, true freshman Hank Bachmeier. That's coming up later in today's program. But first,
we're doing that? I didn't know we were doing that.
For nearly 20 years, Birch Orthodontics has been providing world-class orthodontic care right here in Tallahassee, and they've been doing it with the kind of down-home customer service that keeps all of their clients smiling. Whether you or your loved one needs braces or Invisalign treatments, Dr. Heather Birch and her staff are trained in all of the latest techniques, and the best part is they'll include you in every step of the decision-making process. They'll work with you to craft the perfect treatment plan and payment options to suit your needs. So if you're looking for family-friendly orthodontic care in a comfortable, stress-free environment, Birch Orthodontics isn't just your best choice, it's your only choice. Visit www.birchorthodontics.com. That's BURCH orthodontics.com for more information and to set up your free consultation today. Or you can call the office directly at 850-877-1692. 850-877-1692. All right, Corey. Other things of note from Willie Taggart's press conference on Monday. We will be out at practice on Tuesday morning. We will get Kendall and offensive players. And then
we get Kendall?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. There, you could get maybe a little more insight.
He will. I mean, he did it at Media Day. He gave us insight. I don't know how much more he'll give us in that, but I'm sure he'll I think he will talk about the quarterback, James Blackman, not the teammate, James Blackman. And I think that's an important thing. And I hope people don't think I'm trying to denigrate that that's an important quality that James should have. But there's a certain point where, you're dating somebody and she keeps talking about how good your personality is all the time. You're like, well, that's good, but like, do you think do you look at me and you're like, I want to jump on you? Like, you need a little, you want to feel appreciated. You want to feel like you're attracted to your significant other. I
walked into Corner Pie. Stephanie was there before I was on Saturday night for Jeff's thing. And she said later, like not later when, everything was getting hazy and foggy. She's like, yeah, when I saw you walk in, it took my breath away.
Aw.
And I'm like, shut up. What? That's not true. Like, I couldn't even buy it. And she's like, it did. My heart skipped a beat. And then I'm like, well, which one was it? Did it take your breath away or did your heart skip a beat? Don't quit making up stuff. But so that was really nice.
Nothing she does is ever good enough for you, Corey.
Well,
what is your problem?
But also, like, what does it say about me? Number one, I do have eyes, and I have access to mirrors, so I'm a realist.
But your eyes don't work that well, apparently.
Well, that's true. But, like, what is this? She says something like that, and I think she's screwing with me. Yeah. Somebody I've been dating for, 2 years now, I still think she's screwing with me. I'm like, that's crazy. You didn't think that. She's like, I did.
Feels good, though, right?
It does. Well, yeah, sure. Once I get over the incredulity of believing it, that I was incredulous that she could think something like that. But I'm glad she verbalized it, even if she didn't. It was very, very sweet. Yeah. I got to start saying stuff like that, I guess.
I just told James he's a good quarterback. That's all I want. Let's make the kid feel good about himself.
Well, when I see James Blackman, my heart skips a beat.
All right. Depth chart was also released in the pregame notes that we got at the Moore Center when we talked to Willie on Monday. Several things I think were interesting. Not surprising, as you point out when you spoke to Ira on the video wrap-up. Jaden Lars will be one of the starting inside linebackers alongside Dontavius Jackson, so he holds off to Kalen Brooks. Not a surprise.
And when you look at that, so you look at Woodby, Jackson, Janaris. Golly, man. Come on, Janaris. And Leonard Warner. That's a pretty you worried about having all these little scat-back type linebackers running around. Well, those are some pretty physical dudes. Woodby's the one that you'd say is a smallish type linebacker, but the other three are, pretty big, pretty physical guys, right?
Leonard Warner, 6'4", 241.
That's good size.
Janaris, 6'5", 261.
Big boy.
Lars Woodby, 6'3", 223.
Nothing to sneeze at, by the way.
Dontavius, 6'3", 229.
D-Jax, come get some. So that's what I'm saying. And Jackson's a physical guy for the most part, so you got some physicality with those linebackers. We don't know how much... how well Janaris can play in space necessarily, but we'll see.
I think their hand was sort of, I'm trying to find a phrase and I can't even find it, but I think just Josh hasn't been available enough.
Yeah, I feel like Willie was making that pretty apparent when somebody asked him like what he had seen out of Janaris to.
That was me.
Was it? Good job. Good question. To have him as the starting guy, and he's like, well, I've seen him at practice every day. So, and I don't even think that was necessarily a shot at Kane, though. Like, hey, man, get your butt to practice and quit being hurt. Because if he's hurt, he's hurt. If he's got a bad hamstring, he can't go. But also, you are going to reward the guys that have been out there every day.
That's great. He's 6'5", 261. They have Kando listed at 6'7", 261. I've seen a couple interactions with he and Mark Snyder. I know you're not gonna get your coaches plaudits every single time, but Janoris has been a kind of a work progress, a piece of clay that Mark Snyder's tried to mold, and sometimes has had to maybe exert a little more pressure on him to get the best shape out of him, if you will, the best performance. So I was a little bit curious to see that decision, but again, he's been out there every day taking every rep, so that's going to get you points with the coaches. I guess what was the first thing that jumped off to you then from the two deep that was surprising to you? I mean, for me to see, Renardo Green, a cornerback, to me that was the biggest surprise. I think Ira was saying that, we mentioned on the site, and by we, he apparently means he, or Gene, because it wasn't me, that Renardo had been working his way up more with the twos. I mean, good for him. That's great. True freshman, one of the less heralded kind of guys in that really deep secondary class, includes Travis J., Akeem Dent, Brendan Gant. Cracks it two deep in front of a guy like A.J. Linton that we've been getting numerous questions, whether it's been on Twitter or Warchant. What's going on with him? What's up with the A.J. Linton? What's going on? Well, there you go. He's on the depth chart. He's not on the two deep.
Yeah, I would say that was probably, I guess that would be the most surprising.
Or True. Would you say True
Thompson?
No,
True, sort of, but they got to put somebody there on the second team. They don't have a lot of bodies up front. On offense, I don't know. It's not surprising. It's just the way you have to do with depth charts now. But as good as DJ Matthews and Keyshawn Hilton are, that they're not like listed as starters. That they're or. It's DJ Matthews or Keyshawn Hilton. But also
Trayshawn Harrison.
Yeah, we know that 7 and 20 are going to play a lot. They're going to be on the field a lot together. I think they're going to run a lot of sets where both of them are in the slot. So, yeah, I don't put a lot of stock into that. But so other than that, no, there wasn't a ton of surprises. Renardo Green's probably the biggest one. Maybe, I don't know, and it's such a it just doesn't matter, really. It might not matter all season, but Travis J. is the backup punt returner. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Keyshawn Hilton's been here a while. There's been a bunch of guys that have tried that role, and he has been here 3 weeks, and they're already like, okay, well, yeah, we need to maybe, if anything happens to DJ, we want that guy fielding punts.
Kind of like to maybe see him and Keyshawn return kicks rather than Keith and Keyshawn. And I wonder why, I remember asking Trayshawn when we spoke to him, I don't know when we spoke to Trayshawn, but speaking to him here over the offseason, just about where they were lining him up. He's like, no, I'm inside. I'm playing in the slot. And I was like, really? Because they have Ontario backing up Keith, and they've got Jordan Young backing up Ontario. So, I mean, Keith is 6'3", 212, and then Ontario is 6 foot even, 170. Jordan Young 6'2", 192. Trayshawn 6'2", 191. I wonder why, like, Trayshawn is just, they have him penciled in at the slot, like what his skill set is. That they think he's better off there than he would be out wide. I figured he would be able to kind of fit a more of a Keith Gavin role. But here he is. He's back, man. Year 4. Keith Gavin gets the starting job once again. He had the starting job going into Virginia Tech game. The great Walt Bell talking about all those 50-50 balls that Keith was doing a great job of pulling down last preseason. He had a drop, did he not, against Virginia Tech? I want to say in the end zone, maybe?
Like a drop that, like, it would have been a nice catch, but it's a catch you need your big-bodied wide receiver to actually bring in. Yeah,
it wasn't like Atrus Bell or anything like that.
Yeah, it wasn't our Talman Gardner going down the side.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think. Sorry, Atrus. My bad.
Yeah, don't do that to Atrus.
My bad.
Who had a ton of drops in like one game was
Robert Morgan.
Robert Morgan.
Yeah.
He
National
was a good player.
game.
No, it was no.
Did he drop one against Oklahoma? That would have been kind of a nice little shot in the arm for the good guys.
You know who dropped the biggest one was Jabon Walker. Yeah. First or second drive, crossing route. Perfect throw, and it's going to be a 80-yard touchdown because the safety had committed over him. I remember my mind's eye clearly, and he just dropped it. And I think Morgan had one that went through his arms, maybe diving.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Or maybe that was Anquan. I can't remember.
I think you're right.
But, yeah, Morgan had a bunch against Notre Dame in Doak.
2002. That was a good one. What was the name of that quarterback that came from Notre Dame, came out here, put it on us? Was crazy.
He threw it Arnez Battle on like the first play of the game.
Yeah.
No, not McDougal.
Yeah,
it was 93.
That was 93. I'll have to look it up here. That is crazy, though, when you think about it. True Thompson is second string at a really physical position at nose guard.
Yeah. And we haven't talked about Lucas yet. I'm
sick of talking about Dante Lucas. God bless him.
I mean, you got a true freshman starting on your offensive line. That's something.
I mean, we're talking like
he might be the next.
This poor kid better be Larry Allen. The way we're talking about him, and this, I mean, don't tell anybody. Don't tell Dante I'm saying this. I want to live my life healthy. Yeah, I mean, this is something that you've been on top of for so long in terms of how important this is to the culture, how important this is as an indicator of where things are right now.
Well, obviously, how maybe not great things were that you have a true freshman that can mosey on in and start, but that and again, I said it yesterday, but about the whole fact that. You've had essentially the whole starting five for 4 weeks now, going on 4 weeks. Him and Arnold have gone back and forth, but for the most part, it's been the same starting five. There should be some cohesion there. And, yeah, man, he wouldn't admit it, I guess, on Monday officially, but he didn't deny it because he said it on Jeff Cameron's show, that, Dante Lucas is going to probably start at right guard. So, good signing there. But there's going to be struggles, folks. Boise State doesn't have a bunch of little people. I mean, they got some players, man, and it's going to be a struggle sometimes to move those guys, and it's going to be a struggle all season for a true freshman.
I was a lot more optimistic recording Sunday night for the Monday program than I am now. Not ready to make a prediction yet. Still got to talk to BJ Raines from the Idaho Statesman to figure out where I want to put my money at. Anyhow.
By the way, I have an idea. I just tweeted it out.
Okay.
Apparently Tropical Storm Dorian is heading towards the state. Could be making landfall on Saturday afternoon somewhere in the state. Could be causing a bunch of
on the East Coast, though, most likely.
On the East Coast of Florida, which is where Jacksonville is. So my idea, and it seems like a pretty solid one, is why don't you move the game to Tallahassee?
This was tweeted as we're talking 3 minutes ago, and already's got 12 likes. That must be awesome to get that much traction on tweets that aren't even that good.
Only 12 likes? That's a great tweet. What are you crazy?
If the tropical storm ends up heading towards Jacksonville,
I have an idea. Move the game to Doak.
Where
Perfect.
It should have stayed in the first place as Donovan S. Clifton.
Yeah, man, that's gonna take. This tweet's going viral.
Wow, it's Humphrey Bogart. I don't know.
This tweet's going viral.
Are you more or less likely to respond to anybody on Twitter if they don't have an actual photo of themselves, like a photo of who they are, as opposed to I don't know. Humphrey Bogart?
I don't respond to a ton anyway, but I definitely won't respond to an egg.
Oh, of course.
But yeah, no, I don't know. It's not really ever bothered me one way or the other. Right. You though, you got to see a real picture.
Yeah.
If it's a lady, especially, right?
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
Right, understand. How's that going, by the way? It is Tuesday, right?
It is.
Tender Tuesday. How's that been going?
So we mean like a sound effect, like a sizzle.
Like some slow jazz music?
Yeah. Actually, I went out on a coffee date Sunday with a young lady. So she's cute. I like her. Or, texting
she a
or whatever.
big fan?
No. She's a football fan, though. So that's going to be kind of weird.
Did she know who you were?
No.
Okay.
Which is good.
But probably.
I had been exchanging messages with another woman. I mean, she's a woman. She was old. This one was older. This young lady I'm talking to is younger than me. Actually, the woman I'm talking about is younger than me too. But yeah, she apparently started canvassing and finding out who I was, and then actually found out that I was, one half of Wake Up War Chant, and I'm kind of creeped out by that. She's like, you have to understand where I'm coming from as a woman. I need to know what I'm getting into. I'm like, well, I wasn't signing you up for anything, so I don't know what you're trying to you chill out.
Well, yeah, but you want to know people. I mean, you can understand that. You don't Google people when you hook up with them.
I keep it organic.
Not hook up. I mean,
link up.
Link up. There you go. Yeah, no, I would do that if I was a woman. Like the Louis C.K. bit, and Lord knows he's not a real good person to be an arbiter of what's good and bad for women, but he's like, I don't understand how women ever go out with men. Every bad thing that happens to you, I mean, there's a chance you're going to get murdered. I mean, they got to protect themselves, buddy. But now that she knows that you're an upstanding member of the community, you're famous, you're worldwide.
But then I think she'll know people within the small circle that is Tallahassee. That's the thing you lucked out with Stephanie. That happened quick and clean and easy.
She had no idea who I was or what I did.
Oh, really?
None.
Well, it happened quickly, I feel like, right? There wasn't a lot of preamble between you two, which is good because this town is so small. I've only been here for like a year and a half, and I feel like every time I go out with a girl, there's like 3-4 bars I'll usually go out to, take them out for a drink. I'll always see like another girl that I either match with or like went out with before, and I'm just like, oh. Gosh.
Yeah, well, and I don't have that. I don't really have that. I didn't really do a lot of dating before Stephanie anyway.
Yeah, but it's out. I'm out there, man. I'm back out there. I think
man. Well, I feel like you should. That was a pretty morose update. That was pretty subdued. I didn't like what I was hearing out of that.
What? She's a cute girl, man.
36 likes now. Just tripled since we've been talking about your Tinder.
Guy. Otherwise, around the world, the ACC, things that involve Florida State. The great Sam Howell is going to start a quarterback for UNC against South Carolina.
What are the odds that he skips his junior year because he doesn't want to get hurt so he can be the number 1 pick in the draft in 2022?
What? Who is they had a quarterback last year. I forgot what game was on TV. Did they play Miami like on a Thursday or Friday night last year, or was it 2 years ago? I thought they had a fairly athletic young quarterback.
But he kept throwing interceptions or something? Was that what it was?
No, I think he came in for the guy that was throwing interceptions.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm like, well, that guy seems pretty talented. He'll be all right. And then sure enough, like Sam Howell just, strolls up.
Now, was Howell a kid? Was Howell an early enrollee? Do you remember if he was going to be an early enrollee? So that obviously helps. But also, yeah, man, he might be really good. There might be a real reason that Walt Bell and Willie Taggart were so excited about him. We'll see. I mean, he's a true freshman. I wouldn't expect him to be awesome right away, but he has a chance to be really good, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, you're right. He did throw 3 picks. Chaz Surratt. I thought he ran for a lot more than 69 yards. I thought he was running all over the place.
He might have sacks. He might have had 40 yards taken away in sacks.
Let's see if he's even there anymore. For all I know, he could have been gone. He might have transferred out. Oh, he's there. Explains why he's switching positions. Is that what he's playing linebacker now?
Wow.
What is going on? Oh my God.
Quarterback to linebacker. That's a move that's not made all the time. What's his name at Boston College did that? Tuggle. I remember because I covered him in high school, and his dad was Jesse Tuggle, who was the great linebacker for the Falcons for all those years. And I think he went up to Boston College as a quarterback, and then 2 or 3 years later, they moved him to linebacker. And he might even be in the NFL. I'm going to look that up while you look that up. Figure that out.
What am I figuring out? By the way, it was Carlisle Holiday was a quarterback for Notre Dame back in 2002.
There you go. Nice, buddy.
Yeah. Or talking about whether or not he was an early enrollee, Sam Howell.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a linebacker for the Cleveland Browns.
In that vein, about these crazy changes, I was looking at Raheem Morris, who was the head coach for the Bucs for like 3 years. Mm-hmm. He's actually the Falcons. He cut his teeth as a defensive backs coach and then became the interim defensive coordinator when Monty Kiffin left to go coach with his son Lane, and then he became the head coach when they fired John Gruden. And I was like, there's kind of some parallels there between Jimbo, leaving, Gruden leaving, championship caliber coach, and then they get the young, energetic players coach kind of guy coming in. Raheem Morris has been a defensive coach his whole life. He's actually coaching. He's been coaching receivers for like the last 2 years now with the Falcons.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah. Man, they all get recycled.
He goes like Jody Allen, man. Yeah, I've been coaching defensive tight ends my whole life. I can figure out how to coach defensive ends. I can figure out a pass rush.
I can get on YouTube and watch some clinics.
Yeah. Sam Howell was an early enrollee.
Okay, well, so that makes sense.
And then our, I don't want to say our friend. I don't even know him. I'll never forget. That was great, though. When, literally one day, like Thursday, Bailey, like, what are you going to do, man? I'll be all right. I can wait my turn. I'll be good. Next day, Bailey's gone. Bailey Hockman's going to be backing up Matt McKay at NC State. So
you mean Benedict Hockman. That's what we call him here. You know that.
Where would he be? I mean, Alex Hornibrook's probably not even here right now.
No, he's definitely not here. Absolutely, he's not here. And, Hockman could have stayed here and been a backup.
Hockman could have stayed here and be a starting quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. At a place he wanted to go. But, again, I also give him a bit of a pass because this wasn't the coaching staff that he signed to play with. I mean, I get it, and I like Willie Taggart as much as anyone. But he signed to go play for the guy that makes NFL quarterbacks. And that guy left. That guy bounced. So he didn't know Florida State much. You know what I mean? Like he's, so I don't really have a too big a problem with that. That's just said in jest, Benedict Hockman. But he can move a little bit, man. He's a pretty athletic kid. I'll be surprised if he doesn't play for them some.
Folks, head over to the Tribal Council. Post your questions on the First Commerce Financial Renegade Express thread. We're going to do that on Thursday to get you ready for the season. Also, you can call 850-792-5730. We will take some of your questions on the program. That's what we'll do on Thursday. We're going to take, not really a break, I'm just going to probably play a sound effect. We're going to be back with BJ Rains from the Idaho Press to talk about Boise State. They got a game Saturday, Florida State. That's who they're playing. We'll talk about it more. Play the sound effect, Aslan. All right, as advertised, here we go. We got BJ Rains from BlueTurfSports.com, part of the Idaho Press. Follow him on Twitter, BJ Rains, and it's like, precipitation rains, not taking the reins of a horse. And golly, man, we're just looking at the radar. Corey mentioned it earlier in the show, BJ. I don't know if Boise's keeping an eye on things, but there might be some sort of tropical, storm depression thingamajig, maybe approaching Jacksonville. But we'll be able to keep that away for you guys when you come out east.
Well, that would be nice, considering the last game Boise State played was the first bowl game in like 50 years to get canceled because of weather.
Oh, yeah,
we played about half a quarter, and then the first responder bowl against Boston College got rained out due to some severe storms, and they couldn't continue the game. So, that would be kind of fitting, I guess, if it was the last game and the first game they had some weather issues, but that'd be nice if we could somehow avoid that this weekend.
Yeah, let's hope that doesn't dampen down any of the excitement folks around here have for the game. What's it like in Boise right now in terms of the excitement for this game, BJ? Florida State obviously coming off one of the more lackluster seasons in their storied history at 5-7, but is this still a game that not has only maybe captivated the program but the fan base as well?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, people are really excited about this. They've been excited about this ever since the game was announced. And it's Boise State's kind of made their history, made their hay on games like this. They played Virginia Tech in the season opener a couple of years ago. They played Georgia in the Georgia Dome. Played Ole Miss a couple of years ago in the Chick-fil-A kickoff. So this is nothing new for Boise State or their fans playing in games like this. But to play a program like Florida State, the history that they have and the national championships, it's a big deal for Boise State. I mean, they believe they're a national power. They believe they're a national brand, but they're always going to be considered a Group of 5 team. And when they get chances like this to go up against a team like Florida State, they're very excited about it. Guys, this week a lot of players have been saying it's kind of like a dream come true, and it's surreal because they remember playing against them or playing as them in like the EA Sports video game and stuff growing up, and now they get a chance to play against them. So I think people are really excited about it. It's a huge game, and people are already counting down the days till next year when Florida State makes the trip back to Boise as well.
Yeah, man, I can't wait to make it out there onto the blue turf, man. I'm looking forward to it for sure. So
yeah, they're calling that like the biggest game in the history of the state of Idaho. Maybe it's going to be insane with ticket prices and everything for a school like Florida State to agree to come all the way to Boise. That's going to be like literally one of the biggest games probably in history out here. So we'll get through Saturday, but they're already trying to promote season ticket packages for next year and stuff to get priority seating for that game if you buy tickets this year and that kind of stuff. So it's going to be quite the scene next year for sure.
Yeah, under 37,000 it looks like the capacity at Albertson Stadium, right?
Yeah, it is. That is part of the issue. It's a little bit smaller of a stadium, but it's a beautiful town. It's an awesome atmosphere. It's the way the seats are designed. They're all kind of right on top of each other, so it feels a lot bigger than 37,000. And obviously the blue turf, and there's a river that runs right through downtown, and there's mountains, and it's just absolutely beautiful. So hopefully you and your listeners definitely, if they're going to pick one road game to come to next year. I know it's a long trip. Might be a little expensive, but it'll be worth it. If you're a college football fan, a game in Albertson Stadium on the blue turf is something that's got to be on your bucket list.
Yeah, Corey and I we drove from Omaha to Tallahassee, so Boise will be a piece of cake. It won't be that big of an issue. We'll make it out there for sure. Looking at last season, a 10-3 record for Boise State, obviously led by Brett Rippon, who's now over in the NFL, has exhausted his eligibility. Hank Bachmeier was named the starting quarterback on Saturday, true freshman quarterback. I know he's an early enrollee, but I guess, what have been your sort of first impressions, either from watching him or just being able to talk to Coach Brian Harsin and hearing what he has to say about Hank?
Yeah, I'll admit I was pretty surprised that he got the job. I kind of assumed all along it was going to be Chase Cord. Chase Cord was the backup to Rippon last year, and they used him in kind of some wildcat packages and some goal line stuff, and he got to play last year and had a role. And so he was good enough that he kind of, they took Brett Rippon off the field to bring in Chase Cord at times. That's what why they wanted to get him on the field. So that said a lot about him. And then he suffered a torn ACL midway through the season, and so he was brought along slowly in the spring, didn't participate in spring practice, brought along slowly in the summer, and then they kind of eased him into action during fall camp. And I always thought if he was healthy, he would be the guy. But for whatever reason, Hank Bachmeier just had a heck of a fall camp, and I think that combined with the fact that he was here for spring practice and Chase Cord was not, helped him get a little bit of a head start and just really helped him kind of build some momentum. And he was able to win the job during fall camp, surprise a lot of people. He was one of the top-ranked quarterbacks in the country, pro style. I know it probably doesn't mean much to Florida State fans because they get 4- and 5-star guys all the time, but he was the highest-ranked recruit ever to sign, or highest-ranked quarterback ever to sign with the Mountain West program, highest-ranked quarterback, second highest-ranked player ever to sign with Boise State. So, I mean, he had Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Utah, a lot of numerous dozens of packed Power 5 offers. So he could have gone to a lot of places, but he saw an opportunity to play early at Boise State. Graduated early, like you said, so he could come in and try to compete. And Boise State, I get it was a close battle, and I guess you just go with the younger guy with the higher upside at this point, and he adds a lot of intrigue up here in Boise to what's going to happen on Saturday.
One of the probably nicest luxuries for a true freshman quarterback would be a nice running game, a nice running attack. I think it's been, 10 seasons in a row the Boise's had at least a 1,000-yard rusher, but things turning over at that position. Is the run game something that you think they'll lean on just with Andrew Van Buren back there as well as the offensive lineman? I think, Phil Seal's got guys like John Molchon, I might have got his name wrong, and Eric Cavedo, those guys, Ezra Cleveland. He's got 3 of Boise's linemen first team Mountain West preseason. Is that going to be something you expect Brian Harsin and the Broncos to lean on early in this game, or do you think Hank Bachmeier will have the full sort of allotment of the attack that Harsin usually likes to deploy?
Well, I'll say this. They're going to lean on the offensive line. Now, whether that means running the ball or passing the ball, the offensive line will be one of the huge strengths of this team, particularly in a road game, road atmosphere like this. As you mentioned, all 5 starters back along the offensive line. I think, according to Phil Steele, they're like top 10 in terms of career starts along the offensive line. The 4 of their 5 starters have 20-plus career starts. The left side of the line, Ezra Cleveland, left tackle, is probably going to leave school early to go to the NFL after this season, has a chance to be a first or second round pick. The left guard, John Molchon, also could be a day 3 pick or a guy that's a priority free agent. I mean, they have multiple guys along their line that'll be, at least in an NFL camp next year. And for a school like Boise State, that doesn't happen very often. So very talented left side of the line. They'll probably rely on the left side of the line in terms of running the football. Wouldn't shock me at all if they run behind Cleveland and Molchon early. But no, I think the running game's coming along. They don't have an obvious guy. You mentioned, having to replace a 1,000-yard rusher. That 10-year streak is the longest in the nation, by the way. They were tied with Auburn at 9, and then Auburn didn't get it last year, and they did. So they have the longest streak in the country, 10 years in a row with the 1,000-yard rusher. And Madison, the last 3 guys they've had that were starters all left early for the NFL. They had 3 straight guys, Jay Ajayi, Jeremy McNichols, and then Alexander Madison, that all had 2,000-yard seasons as sophomores and juniors and then left early for the NFL. And Madison was a 3rd-round pick by the Minnesota Vikings and is already doing a very good job and is going to be the primary backup to Dalvin Cook. And so he is going to be very tough to replace. But you mentioned Andrew Van Buren. He was a true freshman last year that got a little bit of action, but frankly, Alexander Madison didn't want to come off the field, so they didn't get a lot of action for the backups last year, so we don't really know how good he is, but they really like him. He was a high-ranked recruit coming in last year and played as a true freshman. Robert Mahone is a kid out of Texas that is actually listed as the starter. He's in his 3rd year, redshirt junior, but he's a guy that really just hasn't had a chance to show what he can do. And then they have a true freshman, George Halani, a 4-star guy that had offers from some pretty big schools like UCLA that chose Boise State. And, he's a guy they say is going to have a role as a true freshman. So I guess the long answer, kind of condensed into 10 seconds, is they feel pretty good about those 3 guys. They're all going to see action against Florida State, and they're going to kind of ride the hot hand. They feel that collectively that group can continue to streak, but whether, continue to run the football, but whether or not one guy steps up and can get to 1,000 yards this year, I think that's a big question here in Boise.
I'm sure this happens to you every year. BJ, you get a call from some, radio guy, print guy, what have you, TV guy that covers a Power 5 program. And especially down here in Florida, we just, we're covering what we think is maybe some of the best prep football in the entire country. So we always think that if Florida State or, if you're talking to somebody from Miami or someone in Auburn or Alabama, that if they're playing any team that's, west of the Mississippi River, they're going to have better athletes out there. So, I mean, that's sort of that lazy kind of prevailing wisdom. But just in terms of Boise has out wide with their targets. I know John Hightower looks like to be a transfer coming in. Khalil Shakir and Octavius Evans, are these guys that have been able to be dynamic playmakers and get past press coverage and man coverage and exploit some matchups and mismatches that they've faced in the past?
Yeah, I mean, the wide receivers coach at Boise State, Eric Keesaw, he's been at Alabama. He's been at Washington. He's been with Charlie Weiss on his coaching staff. He's been at a lot of places with high-powered offenses and kind of a lot of tradition. And he says this is the best wide receiver group that he's ever been around. Boise State's wide receivers are going to be a huge strength. I mean, collectively from top to bottom, they're certainly one of the best out west. And they may be one of the best in the country, really, when it comes down to it. I mean, they've got 4 or 5 guys that you just think really highly of. And it's funny because they lost their top 2 in terms of production last year. But you mentioned Evans. He's a big kid, had a nice true freshman season, was supposed to be a 40 or 50 catch guy last year, and then suffered a high ankle sprain and only played in a couple games and was a non-factor. He's finally healthy. Khalil Shakir was a guy that also was a 4-star guy with UCLA and some other offers, and he played as a true freshman last year and was really coming along as the season went on. They use him as a punt returner also. They'll use him as a running back out of the backfield, and they'll give him some fly sweeps and stuff, and then they'll throw it to him as a receiver too. So they call him kind of a weapon, number 2, Khalil Shakir, and so he'll get the ball. What's one of the things this year they want to do is try to get the ball in his hands as much as possible. So really curious to see how they kind of unleash Shakir against Florida State and all the different areas that they can get him the ball. But a couple of guys, C.T. Thomas is a guy that you didn't even mention, and he's a guy that maybe is their best wide receiver. He rarely drops a pass. On 3rd and 4th down last year, he was pretty much the guy they'd throw to every time on 3rd and 4th down. Other teams knew it, and they still couldn't stop him, and he'd get to the chains and get a first down pretty much every time. And so whether it be, in Hightower, he played last year. He was a JUCO transfer, but he came in last year and had a really impressive season. He's also the kick returner. He's another guy they'll give the ball to out of the backfield or on some sweeps, and he scored, I think, on a 50-plus yard run and a 50-plus yard pass touchdown in the same game or something like that, crazy against UConn earlier in the year. So, he's a big guy. He's a really fast burner. He's also a guy that might have a chance at the NFL. The wide receivers are really going to have to help this young quarterback along. So they feel like the fact that the O-line is there and then they have good receivers, they feel like that's going to help Hank Bachmeier come along. But, you talk about the talent and that kind of stuff. I mean, sure, Florida State is going to have the edge in terms of star rankings and athletes and things like that, but Boise State is really built on developing talent and finding diamonds in the rough and things like that and turning, 2-star guys into 4-star guys by the time they leave. And they feel like they've got a couple of those guys in this wide receiver core that really could have huge seasons.
BJ Rains from the Idaho Press. Check out his work, BlueTurfSports.com, joining us here on Wake Up War Chant, presented by Zaxby's. On the defensive side of things, and this is going to be kind of a clumsy 2-part question for you, BJ, but I don't know in terms of what the fans of Boise think, but is there any segment on that team that gives them anxiety? Because for Florida State fans, the offensive line was a extremely sore point of contention for the Noles in 2018. It was a large part of their offensive struggles was the offensive line just could not provide any sort of protection, could not move the player in front of them. And, again, this whole sort of thought that Florida State has better talent across the board. Well, Boise State has maybe the best defensive line in the Mountain West, led by guys like Curtis Weaver and David Moa in the interior. Just how disruptive have those guys been in their career? And, to the first part of the question, what is maybe a similar Achilles that Boise State fans have been bracing for or nervous about when they're going to be lining up against Florida State?
Well, I'll start with the defensive line. You mentioned one of the best in the Mountain West. I mean, really from top to bottom, they could be one of the best defensive lines in the country. I mean, Curtis Weaver, if you go to Todd McShay's, draft board going into the season, he's at number 27 overall. Many expect him by the end of the year to eventually be a top 20 pick in the draft next year. So Curtis Weaver is likely going to be a first-round NFL draft pick. 20.5 sacks the past 2 seasons. That's the most of any player in the nation that's coming back this year. He's just a heck of a player. He plays what they call the stud position. It's like an outside linebacker, stand-up defensive end, kind of hybrid spot, but he's basically a defensive lineman that just doesn't always, get down in a stance. And he's a heck of a player. So, and you'll find out a lot about Florida State's offensive line and their improvements in this game because Boise State may not have the size that like a typical defensive line would have that Florida State plays, but they've got a lot of quickness and a lot of guys. And David Moa, was also a guy that had NFL potential and was a guy that they were really expecting to have a huge senior year last year, and he tore his Achilles during fall camp and missed pretty much the whole season. Tried to come back one game against Oklahoma State, played about 12 plays and had to shut it down, but he had Achilles surgery for his torn Achilles. He's back. They say he's 100%. I still want to see what he actually provides against Florida State, because you're talking about a pretty quick turnaround for a guy with a torn Achilles, but they, he's been out there in the scrimmages. They say he's back. So if you have a guy like David Moa who had 8.5 sacks at a defensive tackle spot 2 years ago, and then you have a guy like Weaver that's, averaging over 10 sacks a season the last 2 years on the outside, coped with some of the depth they feel like they have. I mean, the defensive line is certainly one of the strengths of this defense and is going to give Florida State a big test. And the other issue would be, I think the issue certainly with Boise State is linebacker. Boise State has lost a lot at linebacker depth the last couple of years. They lost Leighton Vander Esch from the Dallas Cowboys that everybody knows about, the Wolf Hunter. He came in and had a huge rookie year for the Cowboys last year. He was an unbelievable player at Boise State 2 years ago. Last year, they still had trouble replacing him. They had a couple guys that did pretty well, but one of their top tacklers, Tyson Maeva, was booted from the team at the bowl game for an incident in the hotel. So they lost one of their key linebackers. They had two other outside linebackers transfer that both, did see time last year. So they had, two pretty solid linebackers that both played, the weak side linebacker spot, and they moved Zeke Noah into the middle this year so they could get both those guys on the field at the same time. So Riley Wimpy and Zeke Noah, they feel okay about their two starters there, but they play a lot of nickel. You'll see Keikola Kaniho come down a lot, but the depth at linebacker is a big concern for them. So if they were to have an injury or, in terms of the heat and humidity and stuff, if they're rotating guys through, the second-string linebackers are both walk-ons that earn scholarships at some point down the road, so they were not, highly recruited guys. So I would say linebacker is certainly the area where Boise State fans are concerned. They've got 4 of the 5 starters back in the secondary. The pass numbers were not good last year, but they feel like the secondary should be better because they dealt with some injuries last year as well and are bringing a lot of guys back. So they feel pretty good about the D-line, pretty good about the secondary, and I think linebackers, if those guys can stay healthy and they can get some production there, I think this defense has a chance to be really, really solid.
Man, well, I was feeling really good about this game until you started talking about this team, BJ. So hopefully the fans and the listeners listening to this have not been deterred as much as I have been here. Great breakdown of things. We really appreciate it. BJ Rains from the Idaho Press. Check out his work over at BlueTurfSports.com. Also follow him on Twitter, BJ Rains. We'll be in Jacksonville. First beer's on us, man. We appreciate the time, BJ. Thanks so much, man.
No problem. And to make you feel a little better, after saying all that, I still think Florida State wins the game, and it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if it ended up being a rather comfortable victory. I think that Boise State's going to do their best to hang around, but I just don't know if they have the athletes to keep up, the speed to keep up. Sometimes speed really can cause Boise State's defense some problems. And again, a true freshman making his first career start. First college start on the road in an atmosphere like this, or I know it's neutral site, a road game. I could see this not turning out very well in the end, and then Boise State's still rolling off, a 10-2 type season. So should be fun. Looking forward to it. Definitely looking forward to getting down to Jacksonville on Thursday night, and I'll be looking out for you guys for sure. Thanks for having me on.
For Corey, Amazlon, thanks again to BJ Rains, and thank you for listening, everybody. We'll catch up with you all tomorrow. Thanks for listening to Wake Up War Chant.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.